So welcome to the new session of the program Transformemos Europa, okay, that is developed by the cluster IDiA in collaboration with the Ministry of Foreign Ministry in Spain, okay, the Ministerio de Asuntos Exteriores, Unión Europea y Cooperación, okay. Today we are going to speak about the future Europe on the green transition, okay, how we are going towards the green transition, okay, and in order to speak about it, we have with us the representation of the European Cluster Collaboration Platform through Cristina Muñoz, okay, from the ICCP. Thank you, Cristina, for joining us, okay. And we have also with us Ulrika Hurt, okay. Nina, could you go to the next slide, please? The presentation. Okay, perfect. So this is the agenda for today. This is the welcome and introduction. You know, green is the main concern of the of our Europe. Okay, together with digital, we speak about the twin transition. Okay, it's something that is closely linked. That digital technologies enable many of the green functionalities that green improvements that we need to implement, but not all of them. And in order to achieve the goals that the European Commission has declared, we are at the moment working on the building of what is called the transition pathways. Okay, the concrete plans that will help Europe to become more green, digital, resilient, and socially inclusive. Okay, and that's the topic for today. Okay, so I don't know, Nina, if we have a next slide on this. Okay, you know, this session is being recorded. It's important for you to know. We will share it in the channels of IDiA, and also we will share the link with the platform Conferencia sobre el futuro de Europa. Okay, and so if you keep with us, you know that and you agree with that. And without any more explanation, I will give the floor to Cristina Muñoz. Cristina from the ICCP. Thank you, Cristina, for joining us.
Thank you, Antonio, for inviting me. Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, my name is Cristina Muñoz, and I am part of the team running the European Cluster Collaboration Platform that we will now call ICCP for short, to which the project towards Green Transition Facility belongs. That's the project where the cluster IDiA is currently involved. And to give you a little bit of context about the ICCP and the framework of this towards Green Transition Facility project, I will start my presentation by quickly introducing the ICCP. Do you have my slides, Antonio or Nina? Or should I share my screen?
You can share your screen if you want.
Oh, okay, okay.
It will be better, yes, because you can control your screen. But we can do it if you want. What do you prefer?
If you can do it, that's easy for me.
No problem, no problem. Okay. Now we will open your presentation.
Okay, thank you.
But you can start if you want.
Yeah, exactly. So as you might know, the ICCP is a platform for and by industrial cluster organizations. As a quick reminder, in case there are some people in this meeting that are not fully familiar with the concept of industrial cluster organizations, they are geographic concentrations of interconnected companies, specialized suppliers, service providers, and firms in related industries, as well as associated institutions such as universities, agencies, and trade associations. All of these entities operate in particular fields. In the case of the IDiA cluster, for example, such field is ICT technologies. So the interconnection of these entities typically leads to strong performance in productivity, innovation, employment, and entrepreneurship. Can we move on to 2 more slides, please? Yes, that's the one we just covered. Right. So since 2015, the ECCP has acted as a platform for industrial clusters to come together and strengthen the European economy through collaboration. The ultimate impact that we seek is to strengthen the competitiveness and sustainability of Europe's economy and industry, particularly SMEs, improving their performance in terms of productivity, innovation, internationalization, and resource efficiency. So our mission is to be the European online hub for cluster stakeholders and the reference one-stop shop for stakeholders in third countries, aiming to set up partnerships with European counterparts. So as you may see in this slide, so far we have 1,272 clusters registered on our platform, 62 cluster associations and networks, and multiple profiles for people interested in registering with us. Among those profiles, we count training providers, public institutions, national cluster associations, as well as resource efficiency support actors. When registering into the ECCP platform, you get access to people with such profiles, which will facilitate collaboration. In the next slide, we can see that the ECCP, as you might imagine, is a very vast platform where multiple cluster partnerships have been articulated for different purposes, such as internationalization, smart specialization, excellence, and innovation. In addition, the ECCP website also offers information about other EU-funded cluster-related projects of interest, such as Horizon 2020 or Interreg. Now we will see in the next one the ECCP services. The ECCP platform that we recently modernized can now be easily accessed with optimal user experience on all devices. It offers a comprehensive cluster mapping, as you can see in a minute, and it also offers opportunities for direct interaction. You can also find 9 in-focus areas to browse per topic of interest. We will also take a look at it a bit later. We have updated knowledge sharing opportunities and events, and we frequently organize capacity building webinars and matchmaking events for the cluster community. Just to give you an example, the capacity building webinars are designed to address the learning needs that the clusters expressed as most pressing for them through consultations via surveys and interviews. Thus, we recently had webinars on cluster business models and stakeholder engagement strategies. And on 14th of September this year, we have another one on cluster internationalization. It's an open session that you're all welcome to join, and you can find the details on the website. But now, linking back to the green transition, you can also find among our services the EREC network of experts in green energy that has been integrated in the ECCP. This network operates very closely with the Joint Research Centre of the European Commission. And of course, we have the Towards Green Transition facility that we will see in more detail later. We can see that we also have a new design in the new website, clustercollaboration.eu, with a modern look and feel and better user experience on all devices. So here you can find the latest open calls and other funding opportunities at EU, national and regional levels. You can stay up to date on events that we organize, not just by the ECCP, but we can also advertise events organized by the cluster community. So this event, this Transformemos Europa webinar, was also announced on the ECCP website. You can, of course, also read the latest news published by the ECCP and fellow cluster organizations in dedicated sessions in thematic areas. You can use the search function to find any keywords you might be looking for. And of course, you can also read some inspiring cluster success stories. Moving on, here's an example of comprehensive cluster mapping. You can see that this is one of the most interesting features of the new ECCP, as the opportunity to easily map and get in contact with other clusters and partners in and beyond Europe. You can browse by profile type, apply multiple filters, and search by actor, industry, and region. Thus, all of this allows you to search for potential partners and message them directly, as long as you are all registered on the platform. In the next slide, you will see that an example of mapping of cluster organizations linked to the green transition. We have 188 EU cluster organizations supporting companies to be green or self-sufficient mapped on our website, and 93 of them work directly on green sector. You can find that more details if you browse the website. And finally, let me quickly show you the 9 in focus areas linked to the European Commission priorities. We have Green Deal, digital and social economy areas. We also cover resilience and recovery, industrial ecosystems, European cluster partnerships, and skills, policy acceleration, and internationalization. Feel free to take a look if you wish. And if you want to get involved and make use of all the opportunities that the platform offers, in the next slide, you'll see the different steps you can take. You can start by creating and regularly updating your profile, which is completely free. Then you can upload your articles, news, share your achievements, and announce your own events. You can also tag ECCP on social media for wider reach opportunities and dissemination of your updates. And you can set up your collaborative network via the partner search tool, matchmaking events, contacting potential partners, and following open calls. And yes, here you see that when you join the platform, you just have to register by clicking on the buttons that will appear on top of the ECCP website. It's a very simple process that you will do in just 2 minutes. But we can now move on and discuss the Towards Green Transition Facility in a bit more detail. This is a new initiative by the Cluster Collaboration Platform. And next slide, please. Yes, so here we want to enable clusters to promote green transition skills through technical advisory support by qualified advisors that we have selected through a call for experts in sustainability and resource efficiency. And we're now supporting 25 clusters in Europe that are being coached on green transition topics to help the members of their clusters to become more resource efficient and sustainable. The services are completely tailor-made, personalized, and focused on the specific needs and challenges of each selected cluster, and in some cases even to each of the different members of each cluster when they are more varied. We can see in the next slide the intended benefits of this facility, what we want to achieve here. We want to ensure that we have improved resource efficiency of European SMEs within ECCP cluster. We have this intention to really support SMEs as far as possible, even though the clusters and the cluster staff are the direct beneficiaries of our support. We want to support green entrepreneurship through hands-on technical advice and support. That, in the case of the IDiA cluster, is provided by Ulrika. We want to make the best use of opportunities for greener and more efficient value supply chains. And finally, we want to facilitate market access for green SMEs within clusters. The key elements of our approach are direct advisory support by a pool of world-class green transition experts that we selected very carefully from a pool of nearly 400 experts. We've selected the best one to match the specific needs of each cluster. We want to encourage knowledge transfer and expand green transition practices amongst cluster members, again, with a particular emphasis on SMEs. We want to build a stronger community of clusters with a focus on green transition practices, and we will be continuously monitoring the progress, evaluating the outputs that we produce, and learning from these months of working together and the experiences. In more detail now, we can see the timeline. We started this project with a launch of call for applications in February. We closed it in March. Then we announced the selected clusters in early May. Some weeks later, we had the information sessions to start with the support. In June, we had the first meetings with the individual 25 clusters and the allocated business advisors, and we will be delivering the support until the end of September, when the project will end. And in particular for the IDiA cluster, we have agreed on a work plan between the cluster representatives and the business advisor. And the activities we've agreed to deliver are the creation of a working group within the cluster on green transition. We are supporting the creation and the first activities of the working group, although after the end of this project, the working group is expected to continue their work. We are just supporting in the first steps, and we will leave this as a legacy to the cluster. We also want to enhance the cluster's communication on green transition through our new communication strategy that we're going to be supporting to draft. We will also identify projects to be designed or developed by cluster members. We will advise for the preparation of proposals to apply for European innovation and Green Deal related funds. And finally, we are going to be delivering presentations in webinars organized by the cluster, like this one, for example. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take them. We have on the website frequently asked questions about the Towards Green Transition facility. We have a functional mailbox that you can use to send us any questions or requests. And if you want to find out more about the ECCP in general, in the next slide you can find the contact details for more information. So thank you very much. This is all for now.
Thanks to you, Cristina. You are very welcome. And I think it's needed to say that the European Cluster Collaboration Platform is the house of all those entities. You know, in the clusters we are joining not only companies, not for sure, we are joining SMEs, large companies, but also there are social clusters, and there are green associations, as those that are working on the EREC network. So it's a all-comprehensive entity, and as you say, Cristina, we are happy to see there and to connect there with many, many other actors. So everyone is invited. Thank you very much. And now it's time to welcome Ulrika Hurt, our mentor in the project, the mentor of the cluster IDiA, and also a great expert in this area, specifically in logistics. As far as I know, she has a long experience in this field, and today we invited her to share with you, okay, her views, her approaches, and also her proposals for the future of Europe. Thank you, Ulrika, for joining us.
Thank you for giving the floor to me, and thank you for having me. Hello from my side as well to everyone here, and also everyone who are listening now later on in the recording. And share my screen and put my slides on. See if that works. Takes a second.
It's perfect.
Works. Perfect. So we are here today towards Green Europe, looking towards how everyone can take their steps. I'll take a few seconds to exactly reflect who I am, where I am from. I have worked long with logistics and supply chains, so it is inevitable that changes lie ahead of that sector, namely the digitalization and true transition to paperless, which is both motivated by general efficiency, transparency, but also from the perspectives of green and sustainable and low carbon and zero emissions. So that is where it is, and all logistics and supply chain is also dependent on energy, materials, resources, circular economy. So that is the bunch of topics that we've been working with our community in Estonia and also in Europe. I am a member of one of the European Commission expert groups, that is the Digital Transport Logistics Forum, that prepares regulations. And I have also been included into the expert evaluators pool for the European Commission funding schemes. So that is the background, what I'm using to help and support different communities and companies, and also institutions that might need or that can get contribution from methodology development or so to evolve their pathways and their maybe even business models, so just to provide the connectivity between topics and motivate to screen and discover ways of innovation. And what I thought I'd ask or I'd look in today with you is that we all know, and also from this seminar and all the general knowledge and the general information streams that we get, that in near future, by 2030, 2050, all Europe, hopefully also the world, but we'll start from Europe, from home, and all the businesses therefore will be green. They will be sustainable. We all assume that we'll introduce circular economy principles, at least try to start from those learnings and start to install those methodologies. We assume that we will be able to become more resource efficient, maybe even zero waste. Maybe that's a bit optimistic, but anyhow, we have an ambition to create as little waste as possible. Europe has an ambition to go carbon neutral. Businesses want to go carbon neutral. Transport wants to go carbon neutral. We want to go digital. We see that digital is not just only helping us in being efficient. Like I said, it also allows efficiency in terms of all different resources, not just starting from human resources up to natural resources that we might need for keeping up the non-digital frameworks. We want to be smart in any way, by any devices. We assume that it all will be happening in a resilient way. We also expect, and that is what we try to assume, and that's how the circularity also will be supported. We assume that the processes are visible and transparent and understandable, that we have the capability of cracking into them, transforming them, changing them, adjusting them, using them, developing them. We will assume that data is secure and available. Also that the data is available with the least effect and least resources spent on, say, data storage, as efficient as possible. We assume that the transport will be smart and sustainable. That is something we look for. We hope that logistics would be paperless, efficient, and also not just papers, but also transparent and visible all across the supply chains, all across the partners in manufacturing to consumer streamlines. We assume and we hope that within this stream, also the government services will be online, secure but online, accessible across borders, that we'll have cross-sector and cross-border cooperation, and that it is smooth. That is all that we hope to also do with the emerging technologies, that we will apply the latest applications, the latest technologies, the latest tools, the latest machines, the latest different new components, new materials. And we also hope for that innovation is accessible. And we also hope that for all this going green and doing all these steps further, that funding and investments are available. Otherwise, we would not be ready to do anything. And all this green mission, all these green initiatives, all these green aims by tomorrow, 2025, 2030, 2050, all these ambitions. But how do we do that? Where to start? The menu, please. Would we just, be able to collect a pathway and instruction from somewhere for our business, for our community, for our cluster, for our supply chain, for our partner network, for our business? Are we developing anything for the customers? Are we a group that needs a solution? Where's the menu? Give us instructions how to go green by each year. Where are those roadmaps? So where is the material for a transition pathway and for a roadmap? Is there any? And I would hereby go through a few of the key cornerstones that I feel that I have found relevant and that we have found relevant while trying to build and seek our components for the menu, and introduce them shortly to you. This list is not, of course, completely exhaustive, but anyhow, it will be the list or a group of pieces of knowledge that might take you further, and that will be the sources for these menu components for each and every participant in the group. So what I have found the most relevant, and what is most relevant also when searching for an understanding where the future lies and what is the ambition, but also when a European Union strategy comes out, then it is partly full of ambition, but it is also providing a pathway. So it is not utopia. It is a future to be grasped, and the train that waits the businesses and communities to onboard this mission, and also is supported by financial schemes then. And the key document that I would refer to, and that has helped, and that is sort of a connection or a home document to all these green developments, is the European Union Green Deal. It's very, very, very ambitious in many ways, but very firm to be followed, and very helpful to understand where the future actually lies. And it takes efforts to mitigate issues and in cases and current bottlenecks, but also projects the future solutions for climate, for energy, for agriculture, for environment and oceans, but as well the industry and transport, and finance and regional development is also covered, and research and innovation. I'll come back to this research and innovation in a second. The second key document to dig into in the framework that also is underlying several follow-up or connected documents is the EU Industrial Strategy. And that document has provided a lot of insights for manufacturing communities and has been reflected also by the community to become what it is. Very ambitious, very forward-looking, but as well very helpful to understand that all these futuristic ideas are not as far. The fact that you maybe haven't run into the most technological developments yet is not that those developments are very far from implementation. Those will be very close. Also the key priority areas, if that matches with your business interest in both, or by being in the sector of developing these, or using the benefit or using it for the benefit of your business going further, that is something to look into to see the priorities. One of the areas and domains that we seemingly overlook very often is the mobility. We have heard of smart transport, and we assume very often that smart transport, and that is the city transport, the public transport, the international transport for people. And we sometimes do not notice, or many communities do not notice, the developments that are taking place in cargo transport and digitalization and in new ambitions towards international transport. And this strategy in this document is definitely worth looking into when not just transport is your domain. It is when anything from your company or your network is being transported, or anything that you do is connected to manufacturing that eventually will need transport for international deliveries, or even national deliveries, or just physical courier deliveries. So these are the ambitions, and these are the key outlooks. And digital strategy, which very much looks into how the completely invisible, but definitely there, domain of of digital, of e-services, of platform services, of data storages, of cloud services, of different solutions that allow us to speak to each other in a digital way, to sign digitally, to use cross-border digital identities, and to look into options and to foresee the future, how these new mechanisms, new tools really allow across European business space, both for SMEs and big businesses. And those supporting measures are not perhaps anything that you have to develop yourselves, unless you are in an IT company or nearby. But those are the opportunities that are there to come, to endorse and to power up your company, both in going digital, going green, going competitive, going transparent, going to the future. Out of these strategies, the new regulations and directives are derived. I wouldn't really know for sure, but I assume that many of you are in a stream of not really looking into EU regulations on a daily basis and not really feeling confident in reading those. Nevertheless, they are there and they are rather legible. What is happening on top of these strategies is that regulations and directives are being developed and implemented to really allow some of the regulative space to boost and to fix these strategic aims. And one that I would highlight that if you would be interested in is the regulation on electronic freight transport information that seems very transporty, but like already said, will have a great influence on digital supply chains, information exchange, on public reporting of production and in streams of economic operations. So that is a source, that is a way of digging and going further. One of your sources to look into bits and pieces for your menu, for your pathway, for your composition of your roadmap, is to look into the priorities, also the upcoming, but also the available already, the European projects and funding. To look into what the funding is available for might not be the reason for you to divert your business, but it definitely provides an understanding and support to choose while you're choosing perhaps between 2 or 3 pathways going forward. These funding schemes and funding measures and also innovation support measures are the ones that provide you with the input to your development goals and perhaps allows you to reprioritize a few of your developments. What is a useful tool and what is a useful source, and that is something that both me and Antonio share a background in, is a participation of not just in a cluster, but also in an action group and commission expert group that is called to support the European Commission in developing priorities and developing the regulations, developing the directives, developing strategies. And these action groups and these expert groups are closed very often, but they have an outgoing and collection effect, so that they are really the bodies that are the intermediaries between all the communities, the business communities, the industrial communities, the regional and local clusters, towards decision making, towards legislative preparation. And these 2 names that I have here, the Industrial Forum and Digital Transport Logistics Forum, are the ones which drive priorities and drive the application of these strategies into regulations, into technical specifications, that definitely are the ones that impact a business. And when a business feels impacted or even restricted by an upcoming regulation or legislation or strategy, it is most urgent that these worries are communicated towards a cluster, towards an expert group, that these worries should be taken into account, because the aim is to not to hurt the market participants, but to encourage and boost them. And green and sustainable on the expense of companies is not the aim. It should be an enabler. One of the areas or one of the organizations or communities that I also find very useful, and I thought of highlighting it here to you when you're collecting and thinking of collecting your menu elements for your sustainability and green future and green business models, is the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, the 8. I'm sure you've seen slogans in various places, browsing in and logging in and looking into what they are up to is very highly useful, and it has provided a lot of insight also to the communities that I have worked with. And as well, they seem sometimes very forward going, very far away. But the earlier you start onboarding on a community, on a domain that is relevant to you, the quicker you can go further, adjusting your business models and going further and gaining market benefits or advancements. In one of the communities that sometimes is also overlooked, and maybe that is one of the favorites for me also to highlight, is the research and teaching community, that sometimes is considered either very research or very outside of technical applications. That might have been the understanding that grows from old approach. Now it is not so. Now the communities really do interact. They form input and cooperation projects with businesses. Technology transfer has developed into completely different new levels. And when searching for your components, definitely try to look into what the research centers at local universities or international or European universities are doing, how they do their methodology, what modeling they have done, what mapping and discussions they have, what publications they have. It might be a bit tricky to read all the scientific articles, but definitely those are on domains that are of priority. At least there is information gathered. And last but not least, and I hope that as you are here, it's nothing new, but clusters, clusters, and clusters. And clusters should always be the first step. If not knowing where to search, always go to and ask, am I on the right track when I'm searching for my components, for my menu, for my roadmap, for my pathway? And very often these clusters consolidate interests, joint efforts, share information, take actions, elaborate on priorities. And despite all the competitive environment, perhaps between different businesses of the same type, the clusters still have the ability to draw a joint line and bring all these interests together and work on a common ground and allow these benefits of the previously introduced tools and resources to be channeled. So to wrap up, that is up to us and up to every community to make their menu. There are no menus available yet fully. There are sets of ingredients. There are menu types. There are pathway beginnings. But it is, first of all, that us together and clusters together and organizations together will need to first innovate on how to go green, on the methodologies, on the components, on the models, on the maps, on the measuring of how green we are, on the reflection, how this progress has been, have the models been successful, and also how and where we can grasp more information for us and for ourselves. And there, these communities, quite like clusters are, and quite like any support networks are, because there are many that I didn't cover here. It is the aim of reflecting the general tools for discovering your pathways and for your business roadmaps. And though it is a bit tricky to discover your company innovation, and maybe it takes a few steps, but innovation for going towards a green future, the innovation to understand where our pathways might lie and which components to use, that starts today, despite we would like to achieve this green future by 2030, 2040, 2050. Maybe with very efficient innovation, we can reach our little goals by 2023, 4, 5, maybe earlier. Thank you.
Sorry, Antonio, you're muted.
Sorry, I was saying thanks to you, Ulrika. It has been a wonderful review of all the elements that we have in our European environment, and I think that it's a wonderful basis to work on it. Okay, so now it's time to open a dialogue. I don't know if somebody wants to ask or comment. I see that we have with us Guido from Dictefer. Welcome, Guido, to this session. Okay. I think that Dictefer is also working on the Green Transition Facility, as far as I know. I'm glad to have you here. Okay. Anyway, Ulrika, I will take the opportunity because this morning we have been working on the expert group, okay, EU Industrial Expert Group on transition pathways, and we were discussing on how to implement or how to to take in account the green on our definition of the pathways, okay. And there was a proposal to take as main dimensions, okay, 3. The first one will be the policy side, okay. They need to integrate the priorities at policy level between member states, regions, and the European Commission, for sure. So this is a very important point, and align them with our society priorities, okay. That's a very important point. Okay, we need to be aware and agree on the priorities and to implement them through all the different initiatives that are being defined across Europe. I don't know if you agree on this point.
I agree. I agree on the alignment. And the alignment has been more of a better word than coordination. It has been always a better word than representing someone. This alignment always is not even overtaking or pushing one strategy against another. It is to see where the key reflections are that are actually of the same mission. And alignment also includes a lot of discussion. That's what is the background for how we have evolved all these all these regulations even now, is that we have aligned, and we have also aligned the interests. Not that you can really fully align them, but you have a sort of way of screening them so that you can even align problems. And then you know they are problems, and you reflect and you see how big it is on both sides. Also, may it be on each of the sides of the industry, or may it be the business to administration understandings, or policy aims, because policy aims always have to match that the community that this policy will be applied upon will not be rejecting this policy, but will be taking it with perhaps not an enthusiasm, but at least with a way of adopting it and quickly going further and using it for their benefit. What also this alignment means in the policy development is that very often the community that sometimes is affected by the policy will not be having their initiative to come with a proposal by themselves. They only start reacting when the policy is starting to be created. And that's when you need an intermediary who understands both how the policymaker thinks, how they need their input, and also how to collect the understanding of that policy effect from the community at the moment that you actually don't even have a draft for that policy yet. And that's what's the most intriguing, but also the most nice about this alignment, is that it actually is possible if you're just focusing on having it. That's at least our experience.
That's perfect. I don't know if we have sound from somebody. I don't know. Okay, that's perfect, Ulrika. Thank you. And the second dimension that we were discussing this morning is about the need for creating references, okay, about what can be done, okay? We could speak about, for the businesses, the business cases, you know, or we could speak about references for the general society or for the actions that could be taken as a community, okay? But I think that this is one of the main difficulties at this moment, not to give guidance for those that are really interested in working on this and helping them to find the ways to make it possible, financially speaking, or even profitable if possible. Okay.
Yeah, this guidance is a tricky thing, especially when there is no previous success model on the exact application. We have few of sectoral transition experiences perhaps, but they haven't been as wide as expected now. Like we have the other day discussed on circularity or green, how to measure, what's the ranking of our going green? Are we going good enough? How to measure, how to compare, how to understand our level of circularity, our resource use, our energy use, carbon footprint. So this is perhaps the initiation of perhaps collection of best practices of it might work for you, it might not work for you, but this is how I did it. This is how I measured it. Perhaps it's helpful part ways, and perhaps this collection helps also other sectors, meaning the snowball effect or the transition effect of actually reflecting the best practices from another community that might not be maybe applicable directly one by one, but there could be learning elements. And this is maybe the approach that even a small business could take, saying that if I can't take the whole model because it wouldn't fit, what can I overtake? how can I learn as much as is available. That's also one of the hopes for clusters and communities, and also European Commission to allow these best practices tools to be created. I hope so, at least, to be among the ones who's promoting that this information should be available.
You are between them, for sure. And following that idea, the third dimension that we spoke about this morning is about skills and knowledge for green transition. Okay, that is a strong pillar for whatever we want to do in the future. And it's clear that we need to develop actions on that area, I think.
We definitely need to. And I've been running into big eyes already for 5 years. I'm telling them the future of logistics and supply chains is paperless. And everyone's saying, nice dream, 2050 perhaps, if not later. But by groups of interested people with solutions how to do that being around, these regulations are there to come. These technical specifications are there to come. And it only can go on green transition and on energy efficiency or whatnot if you have a widest community who can understand what it is, why it's there, and also how it is impacting their very little operations, and how to discover benefits from that trend. And as soon as every participant can discover their benefits, knowing why they're there, knowing a little bit of pathways, those menu elements that I was talking about, at least those little components for the recipe. That's not a gourmet dinner of 6 courses, but it is a nice home dinner. But anyhow, it is components of interest, favor, and benefit. And when these little pieces of benefits are discovered, then this knowledge, yielding for knowledge or yawning for knowledge, is growing. And therefore, this motivational bits I find very relevant and very, very important to put also into businesses who don't think they have anything to do with green transition or energy efficiency because they're too small. They're not.
They're not.
And into students at schools, universities, even kindergartens, on how to be sustainable, circular. Very simple ways that they grasp it all, and we have a new community growing up who's just trying to find new ways, because those ways are not there. We all have to innovate that. So it's not like, I don't know, therefore the solution is not there. The solutions are not there. They're there to be developed. That's my opinion, of course.
We are really grateful for your contribution, Ulrika, and you are doing a wonderful job helping us to better understand what can we do and also better support our members and our society, the Spanish society and the European one, on how, as you say, how to build these new approaches. Okay, so thank you, Ulrika. You are doing, as I said, you are being very helpful on this, okay? And we are really glad to have you with us. Thank you, everyone. It's time to close the session. We will share it in our channels, and we will spread the knowledge about it, because I think that the contents have been very rich, exemplary, I would say. And so I am looking forward for the next exchanges in this series. Thank you, everyone. See you. Bye.